What if I told you the most powerful war in American history was fought without guns, without armies, and you've never heard the full story? Close your eyes for just a second and picture this. Smoke pouring from steel mills, oil lamps flickering across newborn cities, trains screaming through the night, the air buzzing with ambition. Now, ask yourself, what kind of man rises from nothing and ends up owning everything? Because that's exactly what happened. Two boys, both born into poverty, both told they'd never matter. And yet, they rose to command the future. One became a master of silence, the other a symbol of fire. Rockefeller, Carnegie, oil versus steel, control versus compassion. But here's the question you need to answer. If you were them, would you chase power at any cost or build a legacy that lifts the world with you? Because this story, it's not just about history, it's about ambition. It's about betrayal. It's about you. And by the end of this video, you'll be forced to choose whose side are you on, because the war is about to begin. And you're not just watching it, you're inside it. Our story begins not with kings or presidents, but with two boys. John D. Rockefeller, born in 1839 in a small farmhouse in Richford, New York. His father, a snake oil salesman, a man with a devil's charm and a thief's heart. He called himself Doctor, but was nothing more than a con man. John watched him lie, cheat, vanish for weeks. He learned early, trust no one, count every penny, control everything. Now, pause for a moment. How do you think growing up with a liar as a father would shape your soul? Would it make you cautious or cold? Because that boy, that quiet, calculating boy, would grow into the most feared businessman in American history. On the other side of the tracks, Andrew Carnegie, born in 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland. His family fled famine and sailed to America with nothing but hope in their hands. Young Andrew worked 12-hour days in a cotton mill for $1.20 a week. He ran telegrams across the city barefoot, dodging horse carriages, breathing coal dust. But in his heart, a fire, not just for wealth, but for greatness. Unlike Rockefeller, Carnegie believed in people. He believed in giving back, in lifting others, in creating a nation of builders. Now think, if you had lived Andrew's life, would you fight for your own rise or fight for others to rise with you? They were two sides of the same coin. Rockefeller, cold, precise, patient like a python. He didn't just dominate oil, he became oil. He crushed competitors with discounts, secret railroad deals, and a mind like a steel trap. Carnegie, ambitious, bold, a man of speeches and dreams. He didn't just build steel, he built America. Bridges, skyscrapers, railroads. He saw the future in iron and fire. But here's the twist. They didn't just build companies, they built empires. And America became their chessboard. While one man squeezed wealth into a clenched fist, the other spread it like seeds into schools, libraries, and universities. Let's start in Cleveland. It's the 1860s. Horses clatter down muddy streets. Smoke curls from chimneys. And in a modest office, a young man leans over a ledger, unmoved by the chaos outside. John D. Rockefeller. Thin, reserved, calculating. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. But inside that quiet mind, a storm was brewing. While wildcatters drilled recklessly for black gold, hoping to strike it rich, Rockefeller watched and waited. He didn't care about digging oil. He cared about refining it, controlling it, owning the part of the industry everyone else ignored. He started with one refinery, then two. Then he did something that would change capitalism forever. He walked into the offices of the railroads, the lifeblood of the oil trade, and made a deal in the shadows. Secret rebates. He'd promised to ship massive amounts of oil if they gave him a discount no one else could get. And they did. That was it. One move. And just like that, he choked the competition. Now picture this. You're an oil refiner in Cleveland. You wake up one morning and realize your barrels cost twice as much to ship as Rockefeller's. You can't survive. You knock on his door, and he's waiting, calm, smiling, offering to buy you out. Take the deal or die slowly. This was the Cleveland Massacre. 22 refineries vanished in weeks, not through violence, but through strategy, through silence. Viewer, pause with me here. If your business was at stake and a giant like Rockefeller came knocking, would you stand your ground or sell your soul? Because those who resisted, they were buried. Now shift your gaze east to the fire and thunder of Pittsburgh. Molten steel flows like lava. Sparks dance through the air. And standing high above the furnaces, watching every step with burning eyes, is Andrew Carnegie. Where Rockefeller was the shadow, Carnegie was the flame. Born in a Scottish slum, raised in a one-room home, Carnegie carried with him something Rockefeller didn't: a dream, not just of wealth, but of progress. He wanted to build things that would last forever, and then he found his weapon, the Bessemer process. Before this, steel was expensive, brittle, slow to produce. But with Bessemer's technique, Carnegie could turn iron into steel faster than anyone else. Strong, flexible, perfect for a country on the rise. But Carnegie didn't stop there. He bought the mines where iron was dug, the railroads that carried it, the ships that moved it, the mills that forged it. Every step, every bolt, every beam, he owned it. This was vertical integration, and it turned Carnegie's company into an unstoppable machine. He didn't depend on others, he was the system. By the 1880s, Rockefeller's oil lit the lamps in every home, every street, every factory. Carnegie's steel built the bridges, the skyscrapers, the railways that stitched America together. One man powered the nation, the other built it. Together, they didn't just control industries, they controlled infrastructure, transportation, and the very skeleton of the United States. Let me ask you, if you were alive then, who would you fear more? The man who could cut off your energy overnight? Or the man who built the tracks under your feet? This was no longer about money, it was about power. And these two men had more of it than anyone in history. But power doesn't sit still. It grows, it corrupts, it collides. And while Rockefeller tightened his grip and Carnegie built higher and faster, fate was already preparing the storm that would test their empires and their souls. Because even titans must answer to something greater. Let's move further. It started with trust. It ended with betrayal. In the shadows of rising empires, where fortunes were forged in steel and oil, there stood a man named Thomas Scott, a titan in his own right, president of the mighty Pennsylvania Railroad. But to a young, ambitious Scottish immigrant named Andrew Carnegie, he was something far more. He was a mentor, a father figure, the man who showed him how to rise in America. Carnegie owed him everything, and he never forgot it. But across the chessboard in Cleveland, John D. Rockefeller had no use for sentiment. He had no time for emotional debts. He saw the world not in friendships or favors, but in leverage. Rockefeller's Standard Oil had become a monster, swallowing rival refiners, manipulating prices, tightening its grip on the nation's energy like a vice. And much of that power flowed through the rails, through Tom Scott's railroad. For years, the deal worked. Scott got oil. Rockefeller got discounts. Everyone got rich. Until Rockefeller asked for more, he wanted exclusive routes, bigger rebates, total dominance. Scott said no. He believed Rockefeller needed him. He didn't realize Rockefeller had already moved on. Quietly, methodically, John D. Rockefeller began building something the world had never seen before: an underground pipeline network stretching for miles across the American countryside. No tracks, no locomotives, no middlemen, just steel veins carrying oil directly from wells to refineries. He didn't need railroads anymore. He had made them obsolete. And when the pipelines opened, Scott's empire began to bleed. Empty trains sat idle in stations. Tank cars collected dust. Revenue collapsed. Investors panicked. The mighty Pennsylvania Railroad, a symbol of the industrial age, was being drained of its lifeblood by the man he thought was a partner. Carnegie watched it unfold with horror. This wasn't business strategy, it was slaughter. And the man responsible was no stranger to him, because what Rockefeller destroyed that day wasn't just a railroad empire, it was Carnegie's faith in loyalty, in mentorship, in humanity. From that moment forward, it stopped being about money. For Carnegie, this war had become personal. In the next episode, a man of steel wages, silent war against the king of oil. Skyscrapers rise, railways are built, fortunes explode, but in the shadows, sabotage, propaganda, political puppets, and a final blow that will shatter one of their legacies forever. Two titans remain, but only one will shape how history remembers them. Subscribe now, because the empire you know was built on a war you've never seen.